Yes, let's start the live section. So, welcome to KP GATE classes. Here in KP classes, we have Earth-science, NET CSIR Earth-science coaching, GATE NET, GATE Geology coaching, and GSI coaching, along with general science paper and aptitude paper for the GATE and NET section. And there is also IIT JAM coaching is available over here. Along with our classes, we provide mock tests, test series, and study materials. If you require printed study material, we'll get the printed study material, or there is soft copies of the study materials are also available. And we give the section, the entire sections are go through an application, so it's easier for you to get the recorded lecture, study material, test series, etc. So if you want to join our classes, please click on the description box, the link given over there. All the details are provided along with the number. You can inquire to us with the number given over there, or simply use the trial class link over there, fill it up, and we'll call you back, and we'll arrange a trial section so that you'll understand how we take classes over here. So today in this section, I'll be giving an introduction to the geochemistry for GATE, NET, CSIR NET, GSI, and IIT JAM paper. So as we know, geochemistry is a very important subject. Both numerical question and theoretical question do come from geochemistry. So when it comes to the entire syllabus of geochemistry, so as a nutshell, for GATE, NET, GSI, and JAM, when I combine the whole geochemistry portion, that we have to study about the cosmic abundance of the elements in detail. So this is a very important topic, cosmic abundance of elements. Then the next one is distribution of major, minor, trace elements in crust and mantle. Isotopic evolution of crust and mantle reservoirs. Radioactive decay schemes and their application to geochronology and petrogenesis. Stable isotopes and their application to Earth system processes. Redox reactions and EH-pH diagrams and their applications. Elements of high temperature and low temperature geochemical thermodynamics. So when it comes to geochemistry and exam point of view, if I may say, cosmic abundance of elements is very important for the NET examination. That CSIR Earth-science paper, this cosmic abundance of elements part is very important. They do ask from this section, few times they have asked in GATE also about the cosmic abundance of elements. Then the next one is distribution of major, minor, and trace elements in crust and mantle. Trace element is a very important subject for all related to earth science, related to examinations. These trace element terms are very important. So when it comes to the distribution of major, minor, and trace element in crust and mantle, this entire chapter is important for all the competitive exams, NET examination, GATE, Geological Survey of India, combined Geoscientist paper, and also it's important in JAM examination. The next one is radioactive decay schemes and their application to geochronology and petrogenesis. This entire radioactive scheme section, which is very important for GATE examination. They will give you numerical questions from this radioactive decay scheme related numerical questions will be asked. So this is a very important chapter with numerical questions can be asked. They'll tell you like a particular parent nuclei, this many alpha decay has happened and this many beta decay has happened, and the resultant daughter has how many number of nucleus, how many number of how many number of proton, neutron, or what is the mass number of the daughter if this particular parent has underwent this many alpha beta decays. So you should have an idea about the entire radioactive decay schemes and how they are applicable to the geochronology. Like if it is rubidium strontium system, the radioactive decay happening to rubidium to get into the daughter strontium. and what is the application of rubidium and strontium in the geochronological part. The next thing is in petrogenesis also, like if there is a particular samarian, if there is potassium argon or potassium argon system or carbon 14 system is there, like how does it help in petrogenesis, how does it help in the to find out the age of the rock, to find the evolution of magma, to find the entire processes that has happened in the formation of the rock from the time of formation till now. What are the different processes the rock underwent? The entire details are provided, will be discussed in this fourth chapter, which is very important for GATE NET and GSI. So this second chapter, I would say, this is when you compare with the exams, this is very important in GATE and also important in JAM examination rather than other exams, NET and GSI. This entire section is very important for GATE and JAM exams. Next one is stable isotopes and their application to Earth system process. We have to study about oxygen isotope, stable isotope, and how like we can predict a paleo environment condition or paleoclimatic situation, the glaciation event, whether it has happened or not, whether it was a deglaciation age when a particular organism was present, what was the situation, whether it was a deglaciation or glaciation event that was happening. We can analyze that by looking at the oxygen isotope, stable isotope analysis of that particular fossil of the organism. So we have a detailed study of Earth system processes can be analyzed by stable isotope. We should have an idea about what is happening to the oxygen and hydrogen are the major stable isotope that you have to study. There are other stable isotopes also in detail you have to study, and when it comes to the examination, it's always the net exam that's very much important for the stable isotope. In the GATE also they ask numerical question from the stable isotope portion. Numerical questions have been asked from this section. Then the next one is redox reactions and EHPH diagram and their application. From here also EHPH equation numerical questions has been asked in the exam of GATE and NET. GATE and NET exam. Then the last chapter is the thermodynamics portion, which is important in again GATE and NET. GATE and NET examination. So if I explain more detail about each of the chapter, when it comes to the first chapter over here, the cosmic abundance of element, there they mainly give you if it's in the net examination, they'll give you an option like an increasing order or a decreasing order of set of oxides, set of elements, and they'll ask you what is the composition of crust, what increasing order of elements in crust, in decreasing order of elements in the bulk earth, or what, how does it in the river water, kind of questions will be asked. So this is more of a net CSIR Earth-science related chapter. Then the isotope evolution of crust mantle and mantle reservoir part. This particular chapter is very important for combined geoscientist examination. Also the UPSC examinations like assistant geologist, assistant hydrogeologist paper. This third chapter is very important. Every year they ask a few questions from this particular section, like what are the different reservoirs and the rubidium strontium concentrations present in that, etc., etc. Like the evolution of earth taken place based on the samarium neodymium radioactive decays, like how evolution has happened to earth, the formation of crust, formation of upper mantle, lower mantle. All the things are very important, explained very detailed. We'll be explaining in detail in the third chapter, isotopic evolution of crust, mantle and the mantle reservoir, and that is especially important for UPSC related examinations. The distribution of major minor trace element, there are few topics like bulk distribution coefficient, partition coefficient, compactable element, incompactable element terminologies that are very important for GATE. net examination also they'll give you pictorial questions like a graph. They'll give a graph and you have to look at the graph and you have to identify whether the element is compatible in the mineral or whether the element is incompatible in the mineral. What will be the partition coefficient, what will happen during the fractionation of a particular mineral, what will happen to the element concentration in the liquid, etc. So you have to have a detailed idea about compactable, incompactable, partition coefficient and bulk distribution coefficient, which is explained in the second chapter. So all these entire syllabus of GATE NET and JAM GSI part of geochemistry is mentioned over here. So as I said, geochemistry is very important. Why is it important? Because of the numerical question. We know exactly from where the numerical questions should be asked, like will be coming from geochemistry portion. We know like from radioactive isotope there can be a numerical question asked. Stable isotope part from there a numerical question can be asked. A few parts of thermodynamics like 2-3 sections of thermodynamics part is important. From there they can ask a numerical question. Then the bulk distribution, partition coefficient sections are also important. From there also they used to ask numerical question. So geochemistry's importance is that we have exact idea that like from where exactly question will be asked for GATE, what GSI, for NET and for JAM. So that's like for if it is geomorphology, we won't be able to identify like from anywhere they can ask question, right? Like that's a very huge vast topic. But geochemistry, we can say it's a very precise topic. It's if you study properly with proper analysis, proper knowledge of the topic, from proper knowledge of the competitive exams, you will be able to answer the questions from geochemistry section. So let's have a small discussion about a topic coming under the geochemistry portion. That's about the trace elements. So when it comes to trace elements, the major thing that you have to keep in mind is trace elements are the one that we use for petrogenesis purpose, for the evolution of for analyzing the evolution of rock, for analyzing the age of the rock, geochronology, that is the age of the rock analyzation, and for also for the analyzation of the parent magma, the evolution of the parent magma, its render details is given by the data of trace elements present in a rock sample. What is a trace element? Trace element simply means when it comes to a particular element, the weight percentage of the element in the rock sample, if it is less than 0.1 weight percentage of the rock sample, then we call that as a trace element. So these trace elements can be transition metals, can be trace elements, lanthanides, the rare earth elements. Those those are also trace elements. Rubidium, strontium, yttrium, niobium, zircon, cesium, lead, thorium, uranium. All these are coming under the term called as trace elements. So trace elements are very important when it comes to petrogenesis. When it comes to analyzation of a rock sample, trace element study is very important. You should have an idea of what are the trace elements present in the rock sample for the detailed analysis of the rock. So when it comes to the trace element, as I said, the percentage of trace element in a rock sample is very less. Like there is major element, minor element, then comes the trace element. Even though the percentage is very less, it's very important. It gives a huge data upon the rock sample. So why can they give, why is it impossible? Why is it important? How can it give a huge data about a rock sample? Because of its distribution. How do they get distributed while crystallization? The distribution of a trace element depends upon its ionic radius and ionic charge. So depending upon the ionic radius and ionic charge, distribution of trace element takes place. So this distribution of trace element can happen in 3 different ways. We call that as camouflage substitution, admission substitution, and the third one is capture substitution. These are the 3 different ways a trace element get distributed in a mineral. So the usual way of a trace element getting crystallized is that they have some affinity towards some particular element. For example, if it is camouflage substitution that we talk about, and particular trace elements ionic charge and radius is similar with another major element in a mineral. So what will the trace element do? Though the radius and charge is the same, it will undergo camouflage substitution. That means instead of that major element, trace element will go sit in the crystallitis of the mineral. So while crystallization, this may not the major element, instead some of the trace element will be crystallizing with the in the mineral during the formation of the mineral. So this substitution is what is called as camouflage substitution, when the radius and ionic charge of the trace element is similar with a major element, then the trace element will substitute the major element. Then there is then the same way there is if admission will happen when ionic charge is the same with another major element, but the radius of major element and the trace element is different. Then how substitution happens, that is what is called as admission substitution. The next one is the capture substitution. We'll see this in detail in the classes. Like we'll have a detailed study about what is admission, capture and camouflage substitution. Then the next thing is trace element and their uses. Some trace elements, like for example nickel. Nickel is like very much compactable in olivine. So if I want to study about if there is olivine present in the rock sample, what I will expect is nickel will be there in the sample. Or if there is less amount of nickel or high concentration of nickel is present in that mantle, that means very less fractionation of olivine has happened in the mantle. So this is how like we use nickel. If I have a rock sample and the nickel content is much higher, or from a mantle rock nickel content is much higher, means a very less limited amount of fractionation has happened over there, or crystal accumulation might have happened. That's why nickel concentration is higher. In the same way, if there is heavy rare earth elements are higher, that means garnet fractionation has not happened. If heavy rare earth element content is low in the sample, that means garnet crystallization has happened. Right. So this entire trace elements have very important uses, and each of the trace element, like important trace elements and their uses are very important. They will ask questions about trace elements and their uses in GSI paper, in net examination and also in GATE. In JAM, you may not need to study about the trace elements and their application or their uses much, but for the MSc entrances, but for the GATE, NET and GSI entrances, this is very important. Next, when you look at the terminology called as compactable and incompactable, I mentioned nickel is compactable. So when it comes to the compactable, incompactable terminology, this is to identify whether the trace element has an affinity towards a mineral. If a mineral crystallizes and a trace element, whether the trace element will get inside the mineral or it will stay back in the melt. That defines the affinity of trace element in the mineral. So that is defined by the term compactable and incompactable element. Compactable element means the concentration of a particular element, it will be higher in the solid than the residue melt. In the opposite, contrary, incompactable element means the concentration of that element is higher in melt relative to the crystal, relative to the solid during crystallization or during melting. So during the process of crystallization, the amount of a particular element, whether the amount of element will be higher in solids than melt, that means that element is compactable. If the element is higher in melt than solid, that means the element is incompactable. So incompactable or compactable element terminology is very important. They will give you graphical questions associated with incompactable, compactable elements. And how do we measure whether this element tab, like how do we measure whether it is compactable or incompactable based on the concentration. So this concentration of an element in the solid to the concentration of the same element in the melt during crystallization or during melting is called as partition coefficient. Partition coefficient simply means the ratio of concentration of a particular element in the solid to the same concentration of the same element in the melt during crystallization or during melting, and that defines the partition coefficient. Partition coefficient is notated by the letter Kd. If Kd value is greater than 1, that means the element is compactable. If the Kd value is less than 1, that means the element is incompactable. If Kd value is equal to 1, that means the element is neither compactable, neither nor compactable, neither incompactable. If Kd value is equal to 1, equal to 0, that means the element is perfectly incompactable. The element is perfectly incompactable. So these terminologies are actually very important. Partition coefficient. So partition coefficient is calculated by a very easy ratio of concentration of an element in solid to the concentration of the same element in the melt during crystallization or during melting, and this ratio is what is called as partition coefficient. So partition coefficient of an element in a mineral will give you the idea that the element has affinity towards the mineral or not, or the element will incorporate inside the mineral during crystallization or not. For nickel in olivine always will have a Kd value greater than 1 because nickel is compactable in olivine, whereas for the rubidium may not be compactable in olivine. So the partition coefficient of rubidium in olivine will be less than 1. So compactability and incompactability can be identified by looking at the partition coefficient value of an element in a particular mineral. So I hope you understood what is partition coefficient. We'll see in detail about the partition coefficient. We'll do numerical questions related to partition coefficient, which is very important. How chemical fractionation and different types of fractionation, relay fractionation, all those what is different types of equilibrium fractionation, inequilibrium fractionation, equilibrium melting, inequilibrium melting. Batch melting terminologies, equations are very important that we do study in geochemistry in detail. Also, we discuss the same topics in igneous petrology. So then the next terminology comes, that is the bulk distribution coefficient. So in partition coefficient, we analyze that for a particular element in a mineral, right, whether the element is compactable in the mineral or not. When it comes to bulk distribution coefficient or bulk distribution constant, we discuss about a huge rock. A rock is several minerals together crystallizes together to form a rock, right? Aggregation of mineral is what is called as a rock. So when it comes to a rock and an element, whether the element concentration is sufficient inside the rock or not, that is defined by bulk distribution coefficient. Bulk distribution coefficient is notated by the letter D. For example, in a rock sample, there are three different minerals: mineral A, mineral B, and mineral C. And we are talking about an element. For example, the element is rubidium. We are talking about the element rubidium, and the weight percentage of all the three different minerals in the rock sample is also known. Weight percentage of mineral A, weight percentage of mineral B, weight percentage of mineral C is known. And what happens to the rubidium, like the bulk distribution coefficient to calculate, we should know about the partition coefficient of rubidium in mineral A should be known, multiplied by weight percentage of mineral A plus partition coefficient Kd value of partition coefficient of rubidium in mineral B multiplied by weight percentage of mineral B plus Kd value of mineral C in rubidium So element medium in mineral C multiplied by weight percentage of C. This is the equation for calculating the bulk distribution coefficient of the rock over here. So this is actually very easy. Look at the equation. If I know if when in the rock sample I have to calculate the weight percentage of each mineral, and I should know the KD value, the partition coefficient of a particular element in each of the minerals should be known, and after that simply look at the equation. The partition coefficient of element rubidium in mineral A and weight percentage of the mineral is multiplied. Same way goes with B and C. So in this way we will be able to calculate the bulk distribution coefficient of the a particular element in a rock. For example, you can see this particular question. A rock consists of olivine, 60% olivine, 25% orthopyroxene, 10% clinopyroxene and 5% garnet. Bulk distribution coefficient of strontium in the rock is dash. So they have given the weight percentage of the rock. They have given KD value of the strontium in olivine, orthopyroxene, clinopyroxene and garnet is provided over here. This is the partition coefficient of strontium in each mineral. We have to calculate the bulk distribution coefficient. So please find out the answer. Comment down the answer. Please write down the answer in the comment section. We'll let you know whether the answer is correct or not. So thank you so much for watching. So everybody is welcome here in KP GATE classes. So we'll have a detailed section of geochemistry in our section over here. Complete syllabus of geochemistry will be covered. You will be perfectly like clear, thorough with geochemistry, and you will be able to answer entire questions from asked in NET examination, geology GSI examination, or in GATE examination, on any MSc or JAM related examinations, MSc entrances, or in job assistant geologist, assistant hydrogeologist, PSUs. If they ask any questions from geochemistry, you will be able to answer. So geochemistry is a very tough portion. A lot of numerical questions do come from this section, and a huge conceptual part also. So conceptual and numerical questions will be explained thoroughly. So hope you guys understood what the whole geochemistry topic means, like why is it important, and what are the major topics you have to study. And I hope you understood about the trace element portion. I just gave a small brief part of trace element. In detail, trace elements are very important. We have to a whole set class will be about the trace element actually. So this is a small brief of a trace element. So if any doubts about the institute or anything related to the section, you can contact us in the given number given in the description box. And the question that I have given over here, you guys can comment down the answer also. Thank you so much. This is Ruku Raju here. We'll meet in another live section. Right.